So let's talk a little bit about a water cost of service. A cost of service can be a little bit detailed. I'm going to try to stay out of the weeds. But when we know the total amount of revenue to be recovered from the financial plan, we do what's known as a cost of service. And a cost of service assigns to each customer class how much they owe. So if I'm going to use an analogy, the financial plan is, if a few people are going to dinner, the financial plan decides, are we going to Ruth Chris's Steakhouse, are we going to Olive Garden, or are we going to McDonald's? We need to know roughly how much are we going to spend based on which restaurant we're going to. The cost of service analysis is we decided on a restaurant, we get the bill, and now we can do the math. Okay, Joe, you owe so much. Gina, you owe so much. That's essentially what a cost of service is. It's the detailed calculation of how much does each class owe. And so there is some guidance on doing a cost of service. Looking at the second bullet, there's guidance from the American Water Works Association. They put out something called an M1 manual called Principles of Water Rates, Fees, and Charges. We're going to be using this to do a cost of service. It's used throughout the United States to set public and privately owned utility water rates. And the rationale here is that different types of customers generate different costs because of their demand characteristics. And we want to make sure that each customer class pays its own way. That's why we do a cost of service. And when we do a cost of service, we put your costs into different cost buckets shown in this slide. And I'm not going to go through each one. I'm just going to concentrate on the one in the box that is called peaking costs. Peaking costs have to do with serving water during peak flows. And I think people usually can understand peaking costs pretty easily when it comes to electricity. If you remember last August, we all got a text in August saying, our electrical system is peaking. Please, turn off this and that, and do what you can do because our electrical system is stressed. It's peaking. Well, there's peaking in water too. It's just a little bit harder to understand, but instead of sending electrons through a copper wire, you're sending water molecules through a pipe. So when people come home at night, they start making dinner or take a shower, the water flowing through the system is much higher than, say, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So there are daily peaks, there are hourly peaks, there are monthly peaks. There's peaking in a water system just like an electrical system. And in order to meet those peaks, the system has to be sized to meet those peaks. So if it was just a regular day, this graph here shows to make the point, shows different pipe sizes. If it was an average flow, you could just have a pipe the size of the inner circle there. But when water's really flowing, and if there's a fire, then that pipe or that tank needs to be sized to meet that peak load, and you would need a bigger pipe and a bigger tank. So you have to upsize the system to meet peak needs, and there's a cost associated with that. Bigger tanks, bigger pipes, cost more to replace, cost more to operate. So that's the definition of peaking costs. And then this chart simply shows you two different systems. One system is in blue there. The water use throughout the year doesn't go up a lot, but this red system, their water use doubles in the summer. So that system is going to need bigger tanks and bigger pipes and bigger pumps. So there would be more peaking costs in that system. So like I said, a cost of service takes all of your costs and puts them in these different buckets here. Cost to supply water, deliver water. You see peaking there in green. The green bucket is that peaking cost that I just talked about. There's cost to maintain meters, there's cost to bill your customers. We put it into these different buckets. And then the results of a cost of service is, here's the bill, right? At the end of the day, we know single family owes 47% of the bill. Multifamily owes 13, commercial owes 21, and so on. So that's the results of a cost of service.